I knew the deal was going to be a bloodbath the moment I saw Tyler wearing a suit that cost more than my first car, but fit him like a condom on a banana. Tight in the wrong places, loose where it mattered, and screaming, I have never done a day of real work in my life. We were in the boardroom of Heir Ventures. Imagine a room designed to intimidate you. Mahogany tables long enough to land a Cessna on, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Boston Harbor, air conditioning set to a temperature I like to call cryogenic preservation of the boomers. I was there to buy them out. Well, my company, Apex Mergers, was there to buy them out. I'm Clara, I'm the CEO. I eat stress for breakfast and usually wash it down with sparkling water and the tears of mid-level managers who think they can hide deficits in a pivot table. Victor Halperin sat at the head of the table. The man is an institution. Old money, old school, old leather. He built his manufacturing empire when supply chain just meant knowing a guy with a truck. I respect Victor. He's a shark, but he's a shark who swims in a straight line. You know where he is. You know if you bleed, he'll eat you. That's honest. Then there was Tyler, Victor's son, the Chief Innovation Officer, a title that usually means Daddy didn't know where else to put me, so I just disrupt things that are actually working. Tyler was 32, going on 12. He was scrolling on his phone while I was outlining the valuation of their logistics division. He wasn't even hiding it. He was probably checking crypto prices or looking for a new hair gel that contains actual diamonds. I paused my presentation. I didn't sigh. I don't sigh in negotiations. It shows weakness. I just stopped speaking. The silence in a room like that is heavy. It presses on your eardrums. Victor looked up, his bushy eyebrows knitting together. Clara, is there a problem with the figures? No, Victor, I said, my voice level. I'm just waiting for the full attention of the board. This acquisition concerns the future of your family's legacy. Tyler looked up, blinking like he'd just woken up from a nap in a tanning bed. He looked at his father, then he looked at me. And then he made the mistake that would eventually cost him an 8-figure inheritance. He pointed at his empty mug. Coffee. Now, said. He didn't even look me in the eye. He looked at his screen. I sat still. I didn't blink. I've negotiated hostage situations with union leaders that were friendlier than this. By the way, if you guys are into stories about corporate sociopaths getting absolutely dismantled, go ahead and hit subscribe and maybe drop a like. It helps me keep the lights on while I plot world domination. Anyway, back to the audacity of this man-child. Do you hear me? Tyler screamed, his voice cracking slightly. I said, coffee. We're paying you enough in fees, aren't we? Make yourself useful, sweetheart. The heir left the room. My legal counsel, Zoe, stopped typing. I saw her hand drift toward her briefcase, probably to grab a sharp object or a subpoena. I didn't move. I looked at Victor. Victor was vibrating. It started in his hands, clenched on the mahogany, and traveled up his arms to his shoulders. His face, usually a pale, aristocratic gray, was turning a shade of purple that suggested an imminent stroke or a homicide. I leaned forward, clasping my hands. Tyler, I said, soft as velvet, I think you've confused me with someone who is on your payroll. I am the person writing the check that will allow you to continue pretending you're an entrepreneur. Dad, Tyler whined, turning to Victor. Are you going to let her talk to me like thwack? The sound was like a gunshot. Victor had stood up, faster than a man of 70 should be able to move, and backhanded his son across the face. It wasn't a playful tap. It was a Vietnam War veteran corrects a mistake slap. Tyler's head snapped back. His phone skittered across the table and fell onto the carpet. The room froze. I took a sip of my water. It was crisp, refreshing. Apologize, Victor whispered. His voice was shaking, not with age, with a rage so profound it felt like heat radiating off a furnace. Apologize to the CEO of the company we are trying to buy. Apologize to the woman who is worth 10 of you. Tyler held his cheek. His eyes were wide, wet, and shocked. He looked like a puppy that had just been kicked, if the puppy was wearing Italian loafers and had an MBA from a school his dad bought a library for. Dad, you hit me, Tyler gasped. I will do more than that, Victor hissed, leaning over the table, his knuckles white. Apologize, right now, or you are disinherited. You are out of the will, out of the trust, and out of this building before the ink dries. I watched them. This was the moment. Most people would look away, feeling awkward. I didn't. I watched because this wasn't just family drama, this was leverage. This was data. I was seeing the crack in the foundation of Heir Ventures, and I knew exactly how I was going to stick a crowbar in it. Tyler stammered. He looked at me. There was no remorse in his eyes, only humiliation and hatred, pure, distilled, impotent male rage. I'm sorry, he mumbled, looking at my clavicle. I didn't hear you, I said. I checked my watch. And my time is billed at 6-minute intervals, Tyler. You're wasting capital. Victor looked at me. There was a plea in his eyes. Please, let him have a shred of dignity. I held his gaze. No. I'm sorry, Clara, Tyler said louder, his voice trembling with suppressed fury. Thank you, Tyler, I said, turning back to my presentation slides. Now, regarding the intellectual property rights on the subassembly line, I continued the meeting as if nothing had happened. But everything had happened. Tyler sat there, nursing his cheek, plotting his revenge. He thought he was humiliated. He had no idea. The humiliation hadn't even started yet. I wasn't just going to buy his father's company. I was going to ensure that by the time I was done, Tyler wouldn't even be qualified to manage a lemonade stand in a drought. The game had just begun. And unlike Tyler, I wasn't playing for Daddy's approval. I was playing for keeps. 10 minutes after the slap heard round the financial district, Tyler couldn't take it anymore. He stood up, knocking his chair over, another dramatic, unearned gesture, and stormed out of the room. Didn't slam the door because the doors at Halperin Ventures are made of solid oak and have those hydraulic closers that prevent slamming, which I found deeply satisfying. He just had to aggressively walk through a slowly closing door. It really undercut his tortured genius exit. Victor sank back into his chair. He looked 10 years older than he had when the meeting started. He took a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped his forehead. Clara, he said. His voice was gravel. I apologize, deeply. That behavior. It is not who we are. It's who he is, Victor, I said, closing my laptop. And since you've insisted on him having a seat on the transition board, it's who we would be dealing with. He's my son, Victor said. It was an explanation, not an excuse. He's spirited. He feels threatened by the change. He feels entitled to the outcome without understanding the process, I corrected. I can work with threatened, can't work with incompetent arrogance. I stood up. We're done for today. I need to reassess the deal structure. Victor's eyes widened. Reassess? Clara, the valuation is solid. We have a handshake. We had a handshake when I thought I was buying a disciplined manufacturing firm, I said, smoothing my skirt. Now I see I'm buying a daycare center for adult children. I need to consult with my partners. We'll be in touch. I walked out before he could beg. In negotiation, the power lies with the person who is most willing to walk away, or at least the person who puts on the best performance of walking away. Down in the parking garage, my driver, Marcus, opened the door to the black SUV. I slid into the back seat. The leather smelled like safety. Zoe, my head of legal, slid in next to me. She's 30, brilliant, and has a soul as dark as mine. Did you see the vein in Victor's neck? Zoe asked, pulling out her tablet. Thought he was going to aneurysm right onto the term sheet. Focus, Zoe, I said, staring out the window as we merged into Boston traffic. Tyler isn't going to take that lying down. He's a narcissist with a bruise on his ego and a trust fund in his pocket. He's going to try to blow this deal up. He can't, Zoe said, tapping away. Victor controls 51% of the voting shares. Tyler doesn't need shares to wreck a deal, I said. He has a mouth. He has access. I want you to scrub his digital footprint. I want to know who he talks to, where he drinks, and which rival firms he's following on LinkedIn. If he's going to try to sabotage me, I want to know the color of the sabotage before he even buys the paint. Already on it, Zoe smirked. You know he has a TikTok, right? It's mostly him doing life hacks for entrepreneurs, which seem to involve waking up at 4 a.m. to yell at his espresso machine. Deep dive, Zoe. Everything I ordered. Look for leaks. If he's feeling marginalized, he's going to look for allies. He'll try to sell us out to a competitor just to prove he has agency. I unlocked my phone. I had 3 missed calls from Victor's executive assistant. I ignored them. Silence is a weapon. Let them sweat. Let Tyler stew in his humiliation. Let Victor realize that his legacy is dangling by a thread held by a woman his son just tried to order around like a barista. Found something, Zoe said, her voice dropping an octave. It's faint, but he's been deeming the VP of acquisitions at Omnicorp. Omnicorp, my biggest rival, the Walmart to my Target. They were sloppy, aggressive, and cheap. Exactly Tyler's type. Of course he is, I said, cold smile touching my lips. He's trying to shop the deal. He wants to bring a higher offer to Daddy to prove he's the real businessman. Omnicorp won't value Halperin as high as we did, Zoe noted. They chop shops. They'll strip the assets and fire the workforce. Tyler doesn't care about the workforce, I said. He cares about the win, or what he thinks is a win. I looked at the Boston skyline passing by. Let him talk to them, Zoe. Let him think he's making moves. We're not going to stop him. We're not. No, I said. We're going to let him dig the hole. And then we're going to sell him the shovel. You have that look, Zoe noted. What look? The look you get before you fire someone on their birthday. Tyler isn't getting fired, I said softly. He's getting erased. 3 days later, we reconvened. The atmosphere was different. Victor looked like he hadn't slept. His skin was the color of parchment. Tyler, on the other hand, looked like he just snorted a line of crushed-up confidence. He was wearing a new suit, this one even tighter, a shade of electric blue that shouldn't exist in nature, let alone a boardroom. He walked in carrying a stack of files, slamming them onto the table. "Good morning, everyone," he announced, projecting to the back of the room like he was in a college theater production of Glengarry Glen Ross. "Dad's taking a step back today. I'll be leading the point on these negotiations." I looked at Victor. He stared at his hands. He was letting the boy play captain, a fatal error. Victor presumably thought letting Tyler feel important would calm him down. He didn't understand that feeding a shark a snack doesn't make it full, it just teaches it that you are made of meat. "Is that so?" I asked, opening my notebook. "Proceed, Tyler." He paced the room. He actually paced. "We've been reviewing the term sheet. And frankly, Clara, feel the valuation of the proprietary tech is antiquated. We want to restructure. We want to retain 40% of the IP rights for a spin-off venture I'm spearheading." He paused for effect. "And we want a 15% increase on the cash up front." Zoe let out a sharp exhale through her nose. It was the legal equivalent of laughing in his face. I kicked her gently under the table. "A spin-off?" I asked politely. "And what would this spin-off do, exactly?" "It's a disruptor in the supply chain blockchain AI space," Tyler buzzed. He threw every buzzword he knew into a salad spinner and served it with a side of arrogance. "We believe the core tech of Halperin has applications in cryptologistics." It was nonsense. It was absolute vaporware. He wanted to take the company's crown jewels, the patent portfolio for their automated sorting machines, and use it to scam venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. "Interesting," I said. "Didn't write anything down. And if we don't agree?" Tyler smirked. "Well, let's just say there are other suitors, more forward-thinking suitors, who understand the value of innovation." There it was, the OmniCorp card. He was bluffing with a hand I had already seen. "I see," I said. "Well, Tyler, those are significant changes. We will need to take them back to our investment committee. We'll consider them." Tyler beamed. He looked at his father like, "See, that's how you handle the help. Good. We expect a response by Friday." "You'll have a response," I promised. I walked out of that meeting and went straight to the Ritz-Carlton. Not to sleep, to work. Tyler thought the deal happened in the boardroom. That's why he was an amateur. The deal happens in the quiet corners of country clubs, in the back of steakhouses, and over encrypted messaging apps. While Tyler was busy designing logos for his imaginary blockchain AI startup, I spent the next 48 hours systematically meeting with the other board members of Halperin Ventures. These were Victor's old friends, conservative men and women who liked dividends, stability, and scotch. I met with Lenore, the CFO, for high tea. "Tyler wants to strip the IP," I told her, stirring my Earl Grey. "He wants to gamble the pension fund's security on a crypto venture." Lenore, a woman who still balances her checkbook by hand, looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. "He can't. That IP is our collateral. He's talking to OmniCorp," I added gently. "They'll let him do it. They don't want the factory. They just want the land." I met with George, the head of operations, at a cigar bar. "If the deal falls through, Tyler takes over operations," I lied. Well, it was a half-lie. He thinks the current sorting system is boomer tech. George practically bit through his cigar. "Boy can't even sort his own laundry." I wasn't reacting to Tyler. I was insulating the building against him. I was wrapping him in a cocoon of his own incompetence. By Thursday night, I had the votes. Not the votes to buy the company, I already had those. I had the votes of no confidence in Tyler, stored in the back pockets of 5 angry board members. But I needed him to go further. I needed him to feel so safe, so victorious. He would expose his throat. "Zoe," I texted on Thursday night. "Release the rumor." "Which one?" She replied. "The one that says I'm scared. The one that says Apex Mergers is blinkering." Done. Tyler wanted to play disruptor. Fine. I was about to disrupt his entire reality. The rumor hit the street at 8:00 a.m. on Friday. Bloomberg ran a small ticker item. Apex Mergers rumored to cool on Halperin acquisition amidst strategy shift. Was vague enough to be deniable, but specific enough to be terrifying. Unless, of course, you were Tyler. For Tyler, this was V-Day, Victory Day. He assumed that his hardball tactics regarding the IP and the valuation had scared me off. He thought he had stared down the dragon lady and won. I sat in my office, my monitors glowing with market data, watching his descent in real time. It wasn't market data I was watching, though. It was Instagram. Tyler threw a party. Of course he did. He threw a party on a Friday afternoon at a rooftop bar in the Seaport District. He posted a story, a bucket of Dom Perignon, a panoramic view of the city, and a caption that read, "Sometimes the dinosaurs can't handle the meteor. New era loading. #disruptor #CEO energy by Karen." Karen, I whispered to the empty room. That's creative. I didn't get angry. I hit print. Then I hit save as. I sent it to Zoe to notarize. He posted again an hour later. A video this time. He was drunk. His tie was around his head like a headband, the universal sign of a frat boy decomposing. He had his arm around a guy I recognized. It was the VP from Omnicorp. Big things coming. Tyler shouted over the bass of some terrible EDM track. Real partnerships. No more corporate stiffness. We're taking this to the moon. The Omnicorp VP looked uncomfortable. He knew better than to be on camera during a quiet period. But Tyler was immune to consequences. Or so he thought. I screenshotted the frame where the Omnicorp VP was visible. That was a breach of the exclusivity clause in our letter of intent. Tyler had just handed me a legal grenade, but I wasn't done. While Tyler was popping bottles, I was on a conference call with the 3 main suppliers for Halpern Ventures. See, Halpern makes industrial pumps, but they don't make the valves inside the pumps. They buy them from a niche manufacturer in Ohio. They don't make the controllers. They buy them from a firm in Shenzhen. Gentlemen, I said to the supplier reps on the call, as you know, the acquisition is in a delicate phase. There is instability in the Halpern leadership, specifically guarding the future direction of the product line. We've heard rumors, the Ohio rep said. Something about blockchain? Exactly, I said, letting the absurdity hang there. If that pivot happens, your contracts for the standard valves will likely be voided. However, Apex Mergers is looking to secure long-term supply chains for our other holdings. We would be interested in acquiring your output capacity. All of it, exclusively. For how long? 5 years. Guaranteed volume, and % above current market rates. Silence. The sound of calculators clicking in Ohio and Shenzhen. We would have to drop Halpern, the Shenzhen rep said. Halpern is pivoting to crypto, I reminded them. Do you want to be paid in Dogecoin? By 4:00 p.m., while Tyler was probably doing body shots off a cocktail waitress, I had signed exclusivity agreements with the 3 vendors that Halpern Ventures needed to exist. It wasn't just buying the house anymore. I had just bought the water pipes, the electric grid, and the road leading up to the driveway. Tyler could keep the house. It was going to be very cold and very dark inside. Zoe walked into my office at 5:00 p.m. She dropped a folder on my desk. You look too happy, I said. I found the other thing you asked for, she said, the slush fund. I opened the folder. It was dense. Bank records from the Cayman Islands, shell companies with names like T-Bone Holdings, God, he was an idiot, and transfers. Monthly transfers from Halpern's maintenance budget into these shells. He's been billing the company for consulting fees to his own shell companies, Zoe explained. Subcontracting maintenance work that never happens. How much? $3 million over 4 years. I ran my finger over the numbers. It wasn't just incompetence. It was embezzlement. It was grand larceny. Didn't just break the deal, I said softly. He broke the law. Do we call the SEC? Zoe asked, hovering her hand over her phone. No, I said, closing the folder. Not yet. The SEC takes years. I want this done by Tuesday. So what do? We go to dinner, I said. I think Victor is free. I met Victor at Lakauku. It's the kind of place where the lighting is so dim you can't see the prices on the menu, and the waiters move like ghosts. It's where Boston's elite go to bury bodies without getting dirt under their fingernails. Victor looked frail. The swagger was gone. The rumor of my withdrawal had hit him hard. He knew that if Apex walked, the stock would crater. He was drinking a martini, and judging by the slight tremor in his hand, it wasn't his first. Clara, he said, half rising. I'm glad you came. I wanted to clarify the rumors. Sit, Victor, I said, taking my seat. Ordered a sparkling water with lime. I needed to be razor sharp. We went through the motions of ordering. Small talk about the weather, the Red Sox, the decaying state of the harbor tunnel. We danced around the elephant in the room until the appetizers arrived. Tyler believes you are leaving the table, Victor said, cutting his steak tartare. He is. Celebrating, I said. Instagram is a powerful tool. Victor winced. He is young. He is foolish. He is a criminal, Victor, I said. The silence that followed was absolute. The clatter of silverware in the background seemed to fade away. Victor stopped chewing. He looked at me, his eyes narrowing. That is a strong word, Clara. I have a file, I said. I didn't produce it. I didn't need to. The threat of the file is always heavier than the file itself. My due diligence team found discrepancies in the maintenance accounts. Subcontractors who don't exist, voices for repairs on machines that were scrapped in 2019. Payments routed to accounts in the Caymans controlled by a T-Bone LLC. Victor went pale. He put his fork down. How much? 3 million, give or take. Victor closed his eyes. He looked suddenly like a very old, very tired man. He knew. Deep down, he must have known. You don't lose $3 million in a manufacturing firm without the owner smelling the smoke. He had chosen not to look. He had chosen to let the boy play, hoping it was just a phase. If this goes public, Victor whispered, he goes to prison. Yes, I said, and the Halpern name becomes synonymous with fraud. The stock goes to zero. Your legacy ends in a federal indictment. Victor looked at me, pleading, Clara, he is my son. I know, I said. My voice was gentle, but it wasn't kind. It was the gentleness of a doctor telling you the leg has to come off to save the body. That is why I haven't sent this to the SEC. Yet, what do you want? I want the company, Victor, on the original terms. No crypto pivot, no IP stripping, and certainly no Tyler. He will fight it, Victor said. He thinks he has Omnicorp lined up. Omnicorp isn't going to buy you, I said. I spoke to their VP. The one Tyler was partying with? He was just mining Tyler for trade secrets, launching a hostile takeover of your logistics routes next week. Tyler gave them the roadmap. Victor looked like he had been punched in the gut. His son hadn't just stolen from him, he had sold him out for bottle service and a pat on the back. I can save the company, I said. I can protect the workforce. I can even protect the name. But you have to cut the rod out. You have to do it, Victor, not me. Victor stared into his martini. He swirled the olive. It was morning. He was mourning the son he wanted, the son he thought he could mold. But he was a businessman first. He has a press conference scheduled for Monday, Victor said quietly. He wants to announce the new direction. Let him, I said. Victor looked up, confused. Let him go up there, I said. Let him stand in front of the cameras. Let him think he's won. And then, you end it. It will be cruel, Victor said. It will be final, I replied. And Victor, need an answer before dessert. Victor looked at me. Then he looked at the empty chair where a son should be sitting, but wasn't. I'll have the soufflé, Victor said. His voice was dead, but his hand was steady. The deal was done. Monday morning. The press conference was held in the atrium of the Halpern building. They had set up a stage, blue lighting, and a banner that read Halpern, the future is decentralized. It looked like a TED talk organized by a frat house. I wasn't there. I was in my office watching the live stream on one monitor while I finalized the vendor contracts on the other. Tyler bounded onto the stage. He was wearing a black turtleneck. Of course he was. He was channeling Steve Jobs if Steve Jobs had been allergic to actual work. Welcome, everyone. Tyler shouted into the headset microphone. Today is a historic day. For too long, Halpern Ventures has been stuck in the past. Metal, gears, grease, boomer stuff? He actually said boomer stuff. The stock dropped 2% instantly. I watched the ticker on the bottom of the screen. We were in talks with Apex Mergers. Tyler continued, pacing the stage. But we realized their vision was too small. They wanted to keep us in the 20th century. So I made the executive decision to terminate those talks. Terminate, I repeated, swirling my coffee. Cute. Instead, Tyler shouted, throwing his arms up. Pivoting, we are launching Halpern Coin, a logistics-backed cryptocurrency that will revolutionize how we move atoms with bits. The silence in the room was palpable even through the video feed. The journalists looked confused. The employees standing in the back looked terrified. And Tyler added, we are entering a strategic partnership with Omnicorp to share our IP. That was the signal. I picked up my phone. I dialed the CEO of the Ohio Valve Company. Jim, I said, he just announced the IP share. I'm watching, Jim said. He's insane. Our contract forbids sharing specs with competitors. Exactly, I said. Trigger the breach clause. You're cutting them off, effective immediately. Done, Jim said. I called the Shenzhen controller firm. Execute the stop shipment order. Done. On the screen, Tyler was basking in the applause of 3 people in the front row, probably his drinking buddies. Any questions? He asked. Journalist from the Wall Street Journal stood up. Tyler, does this pivot mean you're abandoning your core manufacturing contracts? Because without the Ohio valve supply, your assembly line stops in 48 hours. Tyler blinked. That's legacy thinking. We're moving beyond valves. You make pumps, the journalist said dryly. Pumps need valves. We'll 3D print them, Tyler improvised. On the blockchain, it was a train wreck. It was beautiful. Then, I saw movement in the background of the video feed. Victor, he walked onto the stage. He wasn't wearing a turtleneck. He was wearing his charcoal suit. He walked slowly, heavily, like a man carrying a tombstone. Tyler turned. Dad, I was just explaining. The Victor walked up to the microphone. He didn't look at Tyler. He looked at the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, Victor said. His voice was low, but it commanded the room. My son is mistaken. Tyler froze. Dad, are you doing? There's no Halpering coin, Victor said. There's no partnership with Omnicorp. And as of this morning, there is no chief innovation officer. The room erupted. Flashbulbs went off. Dad, Tyler shrieked, grabbing Victor's arm. You can't do this. I'm the future. Victor gently removed Tyler's hand. He looked at his son with a sadness that was almost unbearable to watch. Almost. You are not the future, Tyler, Victor said into the mic. You are a liability. Security guards, men I had recommended Victor hire, stepped onto the stage. They flanked Tyler. Escort him out, Victor said. This is my company, Tyler screamed as they grabbed his arms. I built this brand. You need me. Clara, where is she? She set me up. The camera zoomed in on his face as he was dragged off stage. He looked directly into the lens, directly at me. I took a sip of my coffee. Zoe, I called out. Send the final purchase agreement to Victor. Include the bottle of scotch I bought. He's going to need it. 2 days later, Victor asked to meet. Not at the office and not at the restaurant. He wanted to meet at the Commonwealth Club, neutral ground, or so he thought. The lounge was empty, save for a few ancient members sleeping in wingback chairs. The air smelled of dust and old money. Victor was sitting by the fireplace. He looked smaller. The fire had gone out of him. It is done, Victor said as I sat down. Heir has been removed. The press release has been issued. We are stabilizing, I said. The stock is down 15%. The market hates uncertainty, Victor. Which is why we need to close, Victor said, sliding a document across the low table. The original terms, as we discussed. I've signed it. I looked at the document, the purchase agreement for Halpern Ventures. A week ago, this was all I wanted. I didn't pick it up. Victor, I said softly, can't sign this. He froze. What? You said. At dinner, you said if I removed him. I said I wanted the company. I corrected. I didn't say I wanted to pay full price for burning building. It's not burning. Victor protested, a flash of his old anger returning. It's a temporary dip. The fundamentals are sound, are they? I asked. Your supply chain is broken. Your Ohio vendor canceled their contract yesterday. Shenzhen controller supplier put you on a permanent hold this morning. Victor turned ashen. How do you know that? Because I own their contracts now, I said. Victor stared at me. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. He was processing it. He was realizing that while he was dealing with his son's tantrums, I had been dismantling his engine. You bought my supply chain? I secured exclusive rights, I said. Which means, Victor, that Halpern Ventures is currently a factory that cannot make pumps. You have a lot of metal and a lot of people, but you have no product. You are dead in the water. Victor slumped back in his chair. He looked at the ceiling. You strangled us. I insured myself, I said. Tyler was erratic. I couldn't risk him blowing up the supply chain, so I bought it. Now, I'm the only person on Earth who can turn your factory back on. I reached into my bag and pulled out a new document. It was thinner. Here is the new offer, I said. Victor looked at it. This is 60% of the original valuation. It's the fair market value of a distressed asset with no supply chain and a PR crisis, I said. And it includes a clause ensuring the retention of your entire workforce. I'm not Omnicorp, Victor. I'm not going to gut the place. I'm going to run it, but I'm going to run it my way. No family seats on the board, no consulting fees, and absolutely no Tyler. Victor looked at the paper. He looked at the fire. He realized he had no leverage, none. If he walked away, the company would collapse within a month. He will hate me, Victor whispered. Tyler. He will say I gave it away. Tyler is currently trying to sell his blockchain story to a tabloid, I said. His opinion is irrelevant. Victor took a gold pen from his pocket. His hand shook. He uncapped it. You are a hard woman, Clara. I'm a CEO, Victor, I replied. Coffee, he signed. The transition was swift. My team moved into the Halpern building on Wednesday. We didn't bring balloons. We brought auditors. I was in what used to be Victor's office, now mine, when the security alert popped up on my screen. Lobby breach attempt. ID card #004, Tyler Halperin, access denied. I tapped the video feed. Tyler was at the turnstiles. He was trying to tap his badge. It flashed red. He tapped it again. Red, he slapped it against the reader. Red, he went to the security desk. I turned up the volume. "Hey, Jerry," Tyler said to the guard. "Badge is glitching. Buzz me in." Jerry, a man who had worked there for 20 years and who Tyler had never bothered to learn the last name of, it was Miller, didn't look up. "I can't do that, sir. You're not in the system, not in the—" Jerry. "Tyler, I own the place." "Apex Mergers owns the place, sir," Jerry said, "and your name isn't on the visitor list." "Visitor list?" Tyler shouted. "Call my dad. Mr. Halperin is no longer with the company," Jerry said. "He retired on Tuesday." Tyler's face went slack. He backed away from the desk. He pulled out his phone. He dialed. I watched him pace. He was calling Victor. Victor wouldn't answer. I knew that because Victor was currently on a plane to the south of a trip I had suggested he take as part of his severance package. Tyler stood in the lobby of the building he thought was his birthright. He looked around. Employees were walking past him. People he had ignored, belittled, or mocked for years. None of them looked at him. He was a ghost. Then the elevator doors opened. Zoe stepped out. She was carrying a manila envelope. She walked straight up to the turnstiles. "Tyler," she said. "Zoe?" Tyler sneered. "Tell your boss to quit playing games, and you have been served," Zoe said, sliding the envelope across the marble counter. "What is this?" "Formal notice of disinheritance," Zoe said, her voice crisp, "and a restraining order. You are not to come within 500 feet of this building, any Apex Mergers property, or Victor Halperin." "Restraining order?" Tyler laughed, a high, manic sound. "On what grounds?" "Embezzlement," Zoe said. "Turn the T-Bone LLC files over to the district attorney this morning." "Along with your confession." "I never confessed. You posted a video of yourself popping champagne with the OmniCorp VP while billing the company for emergency maintenance," Zoe said. "It's called evidence, Tyler. We also have the IP logs. The DA is very interested in the consulting fees." Tyler looked at the envelope. He didn't touch it. "This is a bluff," he whispered. "The police are on their way," Zoe said, checking her watch. "Eat a 2 minutes. If I were you, I'd run." Tyler looked at the door. He looked at Zoe. Then he looked up at the camera. He knew I was watching. He mouthed a word. It looked like bitch. I smiled. He turned and ran. He actually ran, out the revolving doors into the rain, slipping slightly on the wet pavement. I switched off the monitor. "Jerry," I said into the intercom. "Yes, Miss Clara, good work. Take the rest of the day off. With pay, thank you." I swiveled my chair to look out the window. The harbor was gray and choppy. It was a good day for business. 6 months later, I was in Washington, D.C. for the National Economic Forum. It's the Super Bowl for people who read The Economist. Senators, tech moguls, foreign dignitaries. The air conditioning smells like legislation and expensive perfume. I was the keynote speaker for the Future of Manufacturing panel. Halperin acquisition had been touted as a masterclass in stabilization. The stock was up 40%. The Ohio valve plant had added 2 shifts. We were winning. I was walking down the main corridor toward the grand ballroom. I was wearing a white suit, a power move, because it says I am not afraid of spilling coffee. I had an entourage of 4 people. I felt electric. We reached the security checkpoint for the VIP backstage area. There was a bottleneck. Someone was arguing about badge clearance. "I'm telling you, I need to get these crates back there." A voice shouted. A familiar nasal whine. I stopped. The crowd parted slightly. There he was, Tyler. He wasn't wearing a turtleneck. He was wearing a polo shirt that was 2 sizes too big with the logo of a temp agency on the breast. He had a lanyard around his neck that said Staff Logistics. He was holding a clipboard and sweating. He looked older. Puffy. The shine was gone. Entitlement had been replaced by a desperate, frantic energy. He was arguing with a Secret Service agent. "I used to run a company," Tyler shouted. "I know how this works." "Back up, sir," the agent said, hand on his holster. Then Tyler looked up. He saw me. The color drained from his face. He froze. I stood there 10 feet away. The hallway went silent. My team stopped. They looked at him, then at me. They didn't know who he was. To them, it was just a noisy temp. Tyler opened his mouth. He closed it. He looked at my suit. He looked at his clipboard. He looked at the staff badge dangling against his stomach. This was the moment. The movie moment where I'm supposed to say something witty. Something like, "How's the crypto market, Tyler?" or "Coffee." Now, but I didn't, because saying something would imply he mattered. Saying something would imply we had a history. I looked him in the eye. I held his gaze for 3 seconds. Let him see that I wasn't angry. I wasn't gloating, I was indifferent. He was an insect on the windshield of my life. I had already used the wipers. He shrank. He actually physically slumped. He looked down at his shoes. "Excuse me," I said to the Secret Service agent. "I believe I'm expected on stage." "Right this way, ma'am," the agent said, stepping aside and pushing Tyler back with a firm hand. I walked past him. I didn't look back. I could feel his eyes on my back, burning with shame, but I didn't care. I walked onto the stage. The lights hit me. The applause started. It was a roar, a wave of sound. I walked to the podium. I adjusted the microphone. I looked out at the sea of faces. "Good morning," I said. "Let's get to work." And for the first time in 6 months, I didn't think about Tyler Halperin at all.
And that's how it all played out. Funny how life can twist itself into knots and then somehow straighten out again.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening and being here.